Live.
Hello, BookTube. Welcome. I don't know if anybody's here, but I'm joined today by the wonderful Randy L. Ray, the literate Texan, the only literate. No, I always joke with myself when I see I'm always thinking, gosh, yeah, that's a big statement. The only literate person in Texas.
Yeah. Well, I've mentioned that in videos that I should probably change that to the indefinite article, a literate Texan, because there's some really smart people here.
Of course, yeah.
I learned to read here, in fact, from somebody.
Yeah. So
a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh, well, you've been talking a lot recently about your kind of reflections on BookTube and having gone over 500 subscribers. I mean, I don't know what it is now. It's probably close to 600.
Golly, it's closing in on 600. It's like the last week's been really good. 576, I think, is what it was this morning. So
it's very frustrating at times, though, isn't it? Because it can go down sometimes, and you think,
why? It'll go down, or it'll flatten out. Or when I hit 400 subscribers, I got real excited. I was like, I've got 400 subscribers, and then 8 hours later, I looked and I had 399. I was like, damn it, I was bragging about 400 subscribers. But you never know when that subscriber is going to come back either. So
I always had that rule about the whole. Anyway. I had a rule about the whole Q&A thing. Wait till it got to whatever the milestone was plus 15, and then probably I could be safe, like saying I'm celebrating 500 subscribers. Because I didn't want to be one of those people who's like Q&A 500 subscribers, and then people look and it's like 498.
Yeah. Well, I haven't done a Q&A video since I think I did one at 300 subscribers. Those are always fun, the Q&A videos.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. I mean, it's the whole hobby's fun.
Yeah. It's such a great opportunity to talk about myself.
Yeah.
And unlike Henry David Thoreau, I wouldn't talk so much about myself if I knew anybody else so well.
Yeah. I mean, one of my colleagues asked me, what do I think about doing YouTube? Do I enjoy it and stuff like that? And I said, well, I do. And the primary reason for me doing it actually is for me. And then they said, well, so you don't mind even if there was like one person watching? And I said, well, not really. When it comes down to it, not really, because, I don't have too many people to talk to about books. I do talk to my family about it, and I don't really have many friends that enjoy reading to the extent I do. So this is the outlet. Even if I'm just talking into the ether, I would go crazy just keeping all the good stuff in, when I have thoughts and I read stuff. I'm like, amazing.
And it's funny. Several years ago, when YouTube was still kind of new, I guess it's probably about 15 years ago, there was a TV show in the United States called Jericho. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not.
I've heard of it, yeah, but I haven't seen it.
I don't even really remember it too much, other than I really liked it, and it got canceled at the end of the first season. And somehow I wound up on YouTube, and there was a guy talking about how Jericho's a great television series and shouldn't have been canceled, but he wasn't wearing a shirt, and he was smoking a pipe, and he was doing it from this angle, and it was just hilarious. And we spent a lot of time on his channel watching his videos, because you never knew if he was going to be wearing a shirt or not. And he's a big boy like me too. I mean, he was not, this guy didn't look like Sylvester Stallone or anything. He looked like me. And I just thought that was a scream. And eventually he deleted his channel. I don't know, maybe somebody told him. I'm sure his friends were sitting around, who's going to tell him?
You could try that. You could come on with those dungarees with the no shirt, but those dungaree, the denim, braces and stuff. That could be kind of fun.
I might go viral.
Yeah,
that kind of shit. Well, it's funny because one of the questions in the BookTube newbie 2.0 tag was, what talents do you have that people don't know about? And I mentioned that I know how to juggle, and I'm actually remarkably good at it, because I practiced for a long time. There was a club here in town that I used to practice with and stuff. And it did not take long before someone said, you got to post a video of yourself juggling. Oh, I don't know, man. I try to keep it from here up so that people don't realize how fat I am.
Have you tried juggling books? Is it possible?
I'm sure it's possible. You can juggle anything.
But I suppose with books, you probably have to tape them shut, though.
Yeah, I think
Maybe.
you have to.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I've juggled all kinds of things. There's balls, of course.
Yeah.
And then the clubs. The
Yeah.
juggling clubs are real popular. And then knives and torches. If you can juggle a club, you can juggle knives and torches because they're basically the same shape. And then there's the rings, which most people don't juggle very much. Of course, W.C. Fields was known for juggling cigar boxes. Almost a completely different skill.
Yeah.
Because you'd have 3 cigar boxes and you'd hold one in the middle and you do stuff like this. Anyway, it's pretty entertaining, especially if you throw a cigar into the mix. So.
Yeah, light it while you're juggling it as well. Sorry,
that's old school entertainment. That's circus stuff. That's vaudeville stuff.
Yeah.
Fields, of course, was a big vaudeville star before he went into the movies.
Yeah.
You don't hear that about any modern actors because vaudeville's been gone for years, decades.
You just got me thinking, though. Actually, before we came on, and you mentioned your height. I won't mention it or anything. Don't worry here. But when you mentioned your height, it's one of those weird things that probably most of us actually don't know how tall any of us are.
Right.
Because we're all sitting down all the time.
Yeah. How would you be able to tell? Although I do see some booktubers who make all their videos standing up.
Yeah, but do they have anything that kind of maybe gives any reference, though? I don't know.
I guess if you had a bookshelf that was obviously 5 foot tall.
Yeah.
But even then, how do you tell the difference between a 5 foot tall bookshelf and a 6 foot tall bookshelf?
That's it.
You don't know.
You don't know. I mean, I have ridiculously high ceilings here, so I don't even have that kind of to go up against.
Well, here at the ranch we have low ceilings. Not low ceilings like in a hobbit hole, but relatively speaking.
But yeah, it is funny because I mean, there could be some like real giants. There could be some real little people. I mean, who knows? Steve Donahue might just be like 4'8". We don't know.
I want to go to Boston and meet Steve in person. I'm going to go out there for wine and calzones. Of course, I'll skip the wine. But yeah, I get so tickled at that when he talks about wine and calzones on Friday nights.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fun. I mean, I guess it's one of those things that the US, of course, is so big. It's still quite a long, trip, isn't it? When you travel anywhere within the US,
it really is, yeah.
Yeah, because Alan from Big Hard Books and Classics is, I think next month he's going off to visit Greg from Another Bibliophile Reads, and he was saying like from Portland to, I think he's going via New York and then Maryland. It's like a 5-hour trip, 5-hour flight rather.
Right.
Which 5 hours for me, well, is like 2/3 across the Atlantic. To be honest, I could probably be in Boston in 7 hours. So.
Well, in the last time I went on vacation, it's been 13 years since I went on vacation. In 2010, I went to Hollywood, California for the first ever Turner Classic Movies Film Festival. And so it was a 24-hour drive if you didn't stop for breaks. And so we drove out there because, I'm big enough that airplanes are uncomfortable for me. And so we drove out there in my pickup truck, and the plan was to drive 12 hours the first day and 12 hours the next day. But I think we did 8 or 9 hours the first day and then pushed through the next day for the 16 hours. But I thought about skipping the first night of the festival and taking 3 days to get there. It was a long drive. But it was a really interesting drive, too, because, California is the eastern part of California that we drove through was largely unpopulated. It was kind of desert-like. And so you're driving into California. The first thing they do is they stop you to make sure that you're not bringing in any fruit.
Okay. So even within the US itself,
the United States, they don't want you bringing in any diseased fruit because the fruit crops are so important to the economy in California. But I didn't realize that the eastern part of the state was so almost barren. And maybe it's not like that now. 13 years is a long time. But I remember we came over a hill when we finally got to the populated area of California, and you could just see all the lights and everything. And they were still off in the distance, but it was really kind of a breathtaking sight. But yeah, America's a big place, and I'm glad I didn't miss the first night because they were showing. We saw Monkey Business,
Oh
that
yeah.
Howard Hawks film. You've seen it?
Yeah.
We saw Monkey Business, and it was introduced by Peter Bogdanovich, who at the
Okay.
time I was vaguely aware of. I didn't realize. And so he comes out on stage. He shuffles on stage because even then he was 80 years old, I think.
Yeah.
And he's wearing sweatpants and white sneakers with Velcro. But from the waist up, he's wearing a nice dress shirt and a blazer and an ascot, which of course, I've never seen an ascot in Texas, but in Hollywood, it's probably not bad. And so he shuffles up to the microphone. He leans to the mic and says, "Is this thing on? Can you hear me?" I thought, "Oh my God, how long is this guy going to talk? This is going to be terrible. He's boring." He was so much fun. I would have just as soon skipped the movie and listened to him talk for another hour and a half. He was an incredible impressionist. He did Cary Grant, John Wayne. He did the Kennedys. And he had all these marvelous anecdotes from Hollywood about how Cary Grant was explaining to him that while he was filming Monkey Business, Cary Grant, of course, had an affair with Ginger Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
But Marilyn Monroe was
not the monkey then.
I'm sorry?
Not with the monkey then.
No, apparently not with the monkey at all. But what a great movie. And so we saw that, and then we followed that up with Casablanca.
Oh.
And of all the places in the world, we're watching Casablanca at a classic movie festival. You would think it would go without saying that you shouldn't answer your cell phone during the movie. But they had someone come out and say, "Look, be respectful of the proceedings and the spirit of the proceedings. Presumably you're here because you love cinema. Don't answer your phone or whip out your cell phone during the movie." And sure enough, we're 20 minutes into Casablanca, and the guy sitting in the row whips out his phone. It's like, why are you even here, man?
Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't even look at my cell phone when I'm watching a, run-of-the-mill horror movie down at my local theater, much less when I'm watching Casablanca on the big screen, which you don't get to do all the time,
No, I think it's special when you can watch some of these old movies as they're meant to have been, But Bogdanovich is funny because I've known him for a long time, but I know him really for two things. And one was, there was a film he did, I guess in the late 60s, probably early 70s, called What's Up, Doc?
I just watched it last month. It was so great.
Oh, it is great. Okay, I'm glad to hear that because I watched it as a kid, several times, and I enjoyed it. But I wondered if that's because I was a kid. Yeah, I wasn't sure, if it was. I mean, there's probably much more to it than an adult would get. Yeah, but it was just one of those films that used to be on quite regularly late at night. And when I first got a TV, I'd scroll through and I watched it. And I'm not a big Streisand fan. But this film was good. It was fun, the way she just popped up, and Ryan O'Neill's great, and then the other reason I know him is because he was in The Sopranos, a couple of times. He was the shrink for the shrink. He was Melfi's psychiatrist. So, yeah.
Well, What's Up, Doc's an interesting movie because it's screwball comedy, and obviously trying to capture the feel of Bugs Bunny, which is very funny.
Yeah,
but Bugs Bunny was inspired by Clark Gable's character, and it happened one night. The What's Up, Doc was a line in the movie. Gable was standing there eating a carrot, and so when they created Bugs Bunny, I mean, I only learned this in the last 10 years. I thought it was fascinating. But yeah, it's funny how cinema feeds off itself, just like literature does.
We've got a few comments. Let's just check through them. So, hi there. Good to see you. Got a feeling that's someone from my school, actually. So I probably should keep the language. I don't know. I mean, a child, probably. Alan's here, so we mentioned him. So he's popped in.
Hey,
he likes Cary Grant. Yeah, the Hitchcock film.
Yeah, 4 Hitchcock movies Cary Grant was in.
Big Bogart fan. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I love him.
I love.
Yeah, I mean, I would watch anything with him in. I don't know if that's you, Yanni, maybe, but hello from Cornwall. Jim's here. Hi, Jim. Good to see you. And then I think everybody's saying hello to everybody else, but Jim's advising us it's 7:30 in the evening over there in Georgia, but of course not the Georgia that's down the road from you. Oh, MJ's here as well. Hi, MJ.
The women in Georgia, at least in the United States, are really friendly. I don't know what the women in Georgia and Europe are like, but
Well, I would have to ask Jim.
Georgia and Tennessee, I spent a little time in both places. Probably the only two states I've ever been to where the women were as friendly as I was.
Now you're taking part in Shake-Tember, are you, or are you?
I am, yes. And you know what? I've got Romeo and Juliet here, and I've got Richard III here. My copy of Antony and Cleopatra is at a friend's place, but I'm supposed to be getting that back from her. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about Shake-Tember. I've been meaning to make a video about getting into Shakespeare if you've never read Shakespeare before. I've been planning that for 5 or 6 months, but I haven't made the video yet. But I have a lot to say about it. I have lots of opinions about it.
Well, I just love it when your reading crosses over with other things, and I'm reading this book called The Club by Leo Damrosch, I think, and it's about the club that was formed with Samuel Johnson and who? My mind's gone blank. Samuel Johnson and Joshua Reynolds, the painter, and David Garrick, the actor, the famous Georgian actor. And it was really fascinating because I'm on the chapter because it looks at the lives of all the people involved in the club, and there's a load of them. There's like some others that I didn't mention, but what's his name? Very conservative guy. Oh, it doesn't matter. But they talk about how David Garrick he really brought something new. Like his style of acting had never really been seen before. That he where people like before they would like stand in the group and just deliver their lines, and there was very little actual interaction. There was very little like showing of emotions or anything like that. So people just literally stood there, delivered their lines to the audience. Someone did their bit, and it was more like, I guess, like someone doing a radio drama or something. But what was interesting, which I want to say maybe I'd heard of it before. You might know this already, but from the late 17th century up until I think the early 19th century, even in some occasions, a lot of Shakespeare was like edited, like changed. So in King Lear, in the primary King Lear from, let's say, 1680 through the 18th century, has a happy ending.
Amazing.
Most normal people didn't know. Spoiler alert, sorry for everyone's reading. But what happens to King Lear? As far as they were aware, Cordelia gets married, lives happily ever after. King Lear goes into retirement with his mates, and that's that's the ending of it.
It's like a Hollywood producer got a hold of the script and said, "Oh, test audiences hated this ending.
Yeah.
We're going to do this instead."
Yeah, and they cut huge chunks that like they thought. So it's funny, we're moaning these days, and I'm one of the biggest moaners of all of them about people censoring work. It was ridiculous, what they did. Like they removed the ghost in Hamlet and the sword fight and this stuff as well, and unbelievable.
That's wild. Yeah. Well, I've heard a little bit about that sort of thing, taking great liberties with the text.
Yeah. But I had no idea that there's almost like 100-year period where, John Q or Joe Bloggs, whatever you call them, from the audience who probably never read it but just went to the theater, probably honestly believed that King Lear was a good there was not a tragedy. In fact, none of the tragedies were tragedies.
Right.
They didn't have tragedies. They removed them. Yeah. So it's probably like Romeo and Juliet. Oh, how sweet. They live happily ever after. That's so nice. And what I find interesting about that is, it's quite a barbaric time. They're still publicly executing people, and people are going to watch that. And yet they think their sensibilities are too delicate to watch a tragic play, it's
Right.
a bit weird. So I don't know. Let's see some comments. So yeah, MJ says hi. Alan saying he lived in I don't know how you say that, Moultrie, Moultrie, Georgia for a few years. Well, Jim can't comment one way or the other, I suppose, because he's saying he's married to a Georgian woman. So obviously they must be very lovely.
Absolutely.
My mum's teacher in her London school in the 40s was, I think, Cary Grant's either brother or cousin. I'll recall his name soon if my memory allows me. Well, I'm guessing it was, Mr. Leach, yeah, because he was Archibald Leach, his original name. I mean, it's not very sexy, is it? If, starring Archibald Leach.
I read a biography of Cary Grant by, he's a well-known author, but I can't remember his name right now. But it was really good. But it talked about how, even as a little kid, he was dancing and putting on a persona at vaudeville for coins.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you still hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I just keep hearing, and I don't know if it's on my side. I noticed it in the last live I did. It's almost like a wind thing, and I think it's coming from me. I mean, like it's some vibration or something of my speaker. I don't know, but it's not very big. But yeah, but I mean, they were ones though, really. Cary Grant, Clark Gable. I mean, they're very much kind of like. Well, before they really got into acting, their jobs were a little bit risque, really. I mean, they were quite, let's say, available for a lot of things.
Right, yeah. Aykroyd was the name of the author of that Cary Grant biography.
Oh, Peter Aykroyd. Yeah, he's great.
Oh, writer.
He did one on Hitchcock as well.
Yeah. Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, fantastic Hitchcock.
Bogdanovich, if you look up Peter Bogdanovich on YouTube, he's got great anecdotes to share about Alfred Hitchcock too. His hilarious ones. Apparently, they were in an elevator together one time, and Hitchcock timed it perfectly so that he ended mid-story with it, and there was blood everywhere, and the other people didn't want to get off the elevator because they wanted to hear the rest of the story. It was really, really funny. Of course, Bogdanovich is doing this perfect Alfred Hitchcock impersonation while he's telling the story. What a raconteur!
Oh yeah. Here's
a great story for you. So I have had an online dating profile, and I'm a big believer in a mysterious description. I'm not going to write paragraph after paragraph like most people do. So my profile on my online dating profile said gourmand, raconteur, and what was the other one? Bon vivant. And then I realized those were all French words, and I don't speak any French. And anybody who clicked on my dating profile was probably French. So I started French on those apps. I don't remember which one, but.
Oh, sorry, it's a standard thing. Well, because dogs tell.
Does he have his little arch enemy out there today?
That's it. Yeah, it's dog walking, as tends to be on a cycle, right? So
right, yeah. So
probably the enemy's out there.
Well, in my backyard, there's a sidewalk alongside, and my dogs like to run up and down the fence to bark at whoever's walking down the sidewalk. And so there's no grass growing along the fence anymore. They've just completely destroyed that, running back and forth.
So if you hear it popping in and out, I'm muting it while you speak so people can still hear over the dog. Yeah. So yeah. Are you happy with yourself interrupting things? It's funny. I often wonder because he kind of lives in two languages. Yeah, I wonder how it does affect him. Because every time he meets people talk to him. They speak to him in Czech,
right.
Whereas I speak to him 95% of the time. I speak to him in English. Yeah, occasionally I might give him some Czech command, but he tends to get it. So what else have we got? Alan said he's just reread Richard III. violent, but not as violent as Titus Andronicus or Coriolanus.
Well, is anything as violent as Titus Andronicus?
They're rewriting Ian Fleming James Bond. Yes, I've heard that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awful. Although, now that you mentioned it, Ian Fleming James Bond, we can talk about that a lot in November.
Yes,
for
exactly.
Dr. November.
We've been expecting you.
I went through a phase in my early 20s where I read all of Fleming's James Bond books, and it was really wonderful. They had all of them at my local public library. And I grew up in a really small town, so I was really excited that they had all those books. I just loved every one of them.
Yeah, I mean they are fun. I mean, I think sometimes the films do them justice, sometimes they don't. I mean, I think From Russia with Love is probably one of the better of the adaptations, probably I would say. But I mean, I haven't read them all. I mean, I am tempted because they are short. I mean, you probably could easily read the complete works of Ian Fleming in a month.
Yeah. What were there, 15 of them? 13, 14? I mean, there's not a huge number of them.
It's not a huge number because I think there's like 3 or 4 of them are actually short stories.
Right.
As well. So I think like Octopussy, The Spy Who Loved Me, maybe something like that. Or is it For Your Eyes Only? I don't know, but they're short stories, so they probably wouldn't be too hard to do. But I mean, I always loved John le Carré. I think because you've got just an interesting difference between George Smiley and James Bond. Yeah.
Right. See, I haven't read anything by John le Carré yet.
Oh,
I have half a dozen books on my shelf, on my to-be-read shelf in my other room. So,
maybe we should do a group read of this for Dr. November and choose. I mean, it's short enough. We could choose one Fleming and one le Carré, so we could do one James Bond and do. I guess you'd have to do the masterpiece, which is The Spy Who Came In From the Cold.
Right.
I mean, it technically fits in as a Smiley novel, even though he's in it for like a page or something, But again, it's pretty short, and it's a great book. It would, maybe we'll talk to Greg about it as well, and it might be a good idea to do that because they're not, as I say, not very long at all. So
no.
It'd be good. So what have we got here? In school, Jim did a bowdlerized edition of Chaucer. Now, when you say that, Jim, do you mean literally like they removed all the farting and sex stuff, or it was just in modern English? Because I know there have been like some modern English translations. Mr. Coghill did one, I think, if I remember rightly. So MJ says, Watson says, woof. Well, thanks. Elvis says, woof back at you. Jack Russell, yeah, Doctor. It is Yanni, yeah. So her dog's perked up there. To Live and Let Die with Roger Moore as a Bond. I like. You see, I'm not sure about Roger Moore as a James Bond.
Roger Moore is the James Bond I grew up with. That's my James Bond.
That's the thing. People do tend to go with that.
Yeah, it's all. It tends to be the James Bond that you grew up with.
It was hard for me though because I grew up with arguably 3 James Bonds.
Right.
I guess if I'm talking about the first James Bond I watched in the cinema, so brand new James Bond film that I actually remember, it would have been Living Daylights with Timothy Dalton.
FedEx is here.
Oh.
Yeah, I may have to turn my camera off for a moment to sign for a package.
No worries.
My cancer medication is rare, and they send it to me via FedEx. So I'm just gonna.
If you look at the bottom, you can see. Yeah, you can see stop cam at the bottom there.
Oh, I got you. Okay, this will only take a moment.
Yeah, no worries, mate. So, hello, everybody. Dear. What have we got? Oh, there's some old. Yes, no. Well, Bill's joining in for sure of this event, Dr. November. Yeah, I think that's fair. To be honest, I mean Connery was an excellent Bond. But I mean, a lot of people didn't like Timothy Dalton, but I did like him. Oh, that was fast.
Well, my desk is right by the front door here at
All
Drift.
right.
So,
Yeah, you weren't kidding when you like take a second. It was like lightning.
so this medication is crazy. This cancer med that I take. Like,
How often do you get them delivered?
Once a month they send it to me, and it's insanely expensive. But between my insurance and the other stuff, but anyway, it's so expensive that you have to sign for it. They're not just going to leave it on the porch.
Jeez.
And every month I have to take a survey.
Uh-huh.
And they always tell me the same thing. Please don't share your meds with anyone. Well, there's nothing fun about these cancer meds at all. I mean, this isn't like I'm getting a hydrocodone prescription.
Yeah.
No one wants to share my cancer meds. Trust me. So.
No, that is weird.
Yeah, I don't have any friends who think that the digestive side effects of my oral chemo are going to be fun. Hey, share one of your pills with me. And it just never happened yet. So.
Sean's here. Sean D. Stanfast has popped
Hey,
in. And Aaron as well is here. For Le Carre, you could read. Yeah, that's true. Call for the Dead is very short, but I don't know. I mean, I know it's the first Smiley book, but Spy Who Came In From the Cold is such a classic. It's great. Jim liked Pierce Brosnan as the best of the Bond. First saw in the cinema was Live and Let Die with Roger Moore. Alan's popping out to the bodega for a beer, but he'll be back. Reader's Retreat, hello there. Nice to see you. And Andrew Russell says, I read The Spy Who Came In From the Cold years ago and didn't like it, but don't know if that's because I hadn't read the other Smiley books first. Yeah, actually, I had a similar thing, Andrew. I think I started it years ago and didn't finish it. And then I read through them in order. Now, it shouldn't make a huge amount of difference because Smiley is really... the interesting thing, he's quite central to the story, but he's in it for like 2 seconds. So it's, it's a bit weird, but yeah. MJ says, what about the Bond in between?
George Lazenby.
George Lazenby, yeah.
He only did one movie. Was it Casino Royale that he did?
On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Okay. Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. He was very unpopular.
Yeah, I mean, I know he was quite divisive. I knew a couple of people actually really liked him. Yeah, he thought he was good. I don't think I watched that one. I
haven't seen a lot of the movies.
Hi, Stephanie. So.
I liked the Pierce Brosnan movies. The really high action content was great. And of course, Brosnan's such a charmer even now as an old man. But so's Timothy Dalton. I thought Timothy Dalton got kind of a bad rap as James Bond because I thought he was quite good.
I mean, I respect him as well because he did his own stunts. Yeah?
There you go. I do my own stunts. There's just not many of
them. Oh dear. So no, I'm excited for that. I think it's going to be a great event, actually. Yeah.
Well, this is the first time I've been invited to co-host anything. So I'm very excited about that too.
That would be good. And have you got anything in the pipeline?
For
other events that you might be hosting or co-hosting? Or, one of the things you can do, because like when I started out, I made a ton of like original tags. And then I also created some of my own events and got a few people to do it. So it is something you can...
I am planning an event in February, Fantasy February, and I've got several co-hosts lined up. I don't know when it's appropriate to announce that sort of thing or not. But,
well, if it's with other co-hosts, then I guess just get yourself together with them and decide when. And then it's like with us, Did I do it myself? And then, I just did it because I had an idea. And then I think I approached you and Greg after to see if you two would want to host it with me. So we didn't release an announcement video, but I think we will closer to the time, and we'll just get together and decide what day we'll pop them all out about this. But, I think generally a month before is good because people might need the time to get the books they want to read for some events. Yeah, so with
Well,
the
I talked
fantasy
to
one in
Steve Johnson,
February,
and he said there used to be a fantasy February event, fantasy February tales or stories or something like that. But he said it's a defunct event now. Nobody has it anymore. And,
yeah,
and apparently there's not a big booktube event from our corner of booktube about fantasy. Of course, evidently, and I wasn't aware of this until I talked to Steve about it. There's a clique of fantasy fans who kind of do their own thing and only talk about fantasy all year long.
yeah. I'm going to try and drop the link to your channel because Readers Retreat obviously wants to check you out.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if it works. You'll have to let me know. But if not, he's down as youtube.com.
There it is. Yeah.
/@literate-texan, all one word there, and you'll be able to find him if the link. Well, the link doesn't always display on because we're seeing this, yeah,
right.
But they're watching it on YouTube.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So there can be sometimes a little bit of a delay, and you can put the link in here where we can see it, but it doesn't necessarily appear in the chats on YouTube. So we'll see.
I think I even come up now if you search for Literate Texan or Randy Ray Literate Texan.
Actually, maybe. Yeah, I forgot to do it because we came on so quickly. I think I put because when I set up StreamYard, I put join me and I left a space, and I was going to do the @ but I'll put it in. I'll put it in after.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Don't worry.
I'm wondering who the mystery guest is.
Yeah. Because I completely forgot to do that. Actually, yeah. I could probably do it now, actually, but yeah. So well, that would be interesting. So you've got November.
We've got October to look forward to too, don't we?
We do. With that Patreon book, there's one person who hasn't voted. I feel like emailing them because it's deadlocked. Or at least last time I saw it, it was deadlocked. And the problem is I did vote already,
right?
But I'm not going to say what I voted for yet because I wasn't sure whether I should or not. And I did. And I might be, part of me is like, well, maybe I should withdraw my vote so that then there'll be a clear winner. And I might do that. If the last person's too busy and doesn't know, I'll withdraw my vote and then one of those books will win. So, but to be honest, I was happy to read any of those three. I think it would be.
What were the three? I saw them and then promptly forgot.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to do something long for the first pick because I don't know what everyone else has got lined up. But it was The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells, Plain Tales from the Hills by Kipling, and The Turn of the Screw by Henry James.
Gotcha.
And I think we're deadlocked between Kipling and James.
Okay.
I think, from what I saw. But, the wonderful thing is they're all Victorian. They're all short. You can read them all, really, next month. So it's not a big big problem if one. And plus, I can carry them over into the next months. And Elvis, is this going to be your first Christmas on BookTube?
Well, I commented on BookTube on Christmas and was reading actively, but I didn't actually start making videos until May this year. So yeah, I guess I'm 4 or 5 months in. So this will be my first Christmas on BookTube. First Thanksgiving, Christmas. So
yeah, I've always tried to do. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Look forward to October because I'm going to read Sherlock Holmes. I know, and I'm going to read Dracula. I know.
And because is Dracula a new one for you, or have you read it before?
I've read it before, and then I'm probably going to try to get in at least one Dickens novel that I haven't read before. Although Dickens is easy to save for Christmas time too.
Well, yeah, actually, I have to say I tend to save Dickens for Christmas as well. But I've tried to do something. I've tried to do something every Christmas. In the 2 Christmases I've had on BookTube, and the one I was quite proud of, but it didn't actually wasn't as popular as I thought it would be. Was getting 5 booktubers to read Christmas Carol.
Right.
And I thought I had a great, I had a great A team actually, and a great B team too, because one of them came in at the last moment when a very good friend of ours from Boston had to pull out for some reason or other. And it was, it was great. It was like I had that Kate Howe, I had me, of course, wonderful, and Jack, the Rambling Raconteur, Michael K. Vaughan,
Right.
and Roz from Study Dangling But Look, so we just took a chapter each and read it, and it was great fun to do. We all like had our little poses or whatever, and Santa hats on or whatnot,
Oh,
and
fun.
yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
And I think someone else did it last year. Maybe it was someone like Micah Cummins. Maybe I don't know. But it's
Right.
one of those things. There's nothing original on BookTube, right? Even a
Right.
million
Right.
people did it before me, probably. So. Stephanie's asking you, Randy, which Sherlock Holmes?
Well, all of them.
Oh, all of them.
Well, there's
Wonderful.
56 short stories and 4 novels. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to reread the canon every couple of years because Sherlock Holmes was one of the first. In terms of early reading experiences, there was Sherlock Holmes, there was The Lord of the Rings, and The World According to Garp, which of course I'm doing a buddy read right now with Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads, and of course I read The World According to Garp when I was 12 years old, and I was probably relatively naive. I didn't actually grow up on a farm. I grew up in a small town, so the sex stuff, most of it was lost on me in The World According to Garp, and it's largely a novel about sex, or at least lust. So, but I'm enjoying my reread of that right now. I'm only 2 chapters in, but I'm really loving it.
I would love to track down my first sexy book, and I would have been 11 or 12, and I was on holiday in Portugal, and in the kind of, it was, I guess, like a boutique hotel we were staying in, but they had like a library where people had left behind books, right?
Right.
And I was attracted to the book because of the cover. And it was it didn't have naked ladies on it. It was completely actually the opposite of what you might think. It had like, now I want to say it might have been one of these Stefan Hassel books, is it Legion of the Damned? Because it was about German soldiers on the Eastern Front. But when they weren't fighting, they were like, carousing and doing, I mean, to be honest, actually, it might have been even darker than that, but I was only 12, I don't know. But all I remember is like the first time that I'd come across like sex scenes in a book. And the funny thing about it was, because I'm reading this book in the car, because we make day trips and stuff. And I'm just reading it, and I'm really liking it because like the soldiers and whatever. And then suddenly, a woman appears and, things start happening. And, I'm like 11 years old. I'm reading, and I'm like suddenly overtaken by like this guilt that I shouldn't be reading this. But of course, nobody knows what's it. And I'm sitting in the car like, can't stop reading it, So yeah, but I don't know what it was, and I'm just curious, to know what it was.
When I was in first or second grade, Conan comic books were really big, and of course it's timely now. But I was really young, and of course my other friends were all young, but of course we were all interested in women, and I had this Conan comic book, and Red Sonja was in there, and so we had decided, in typical first grader or second grade fashion, that if we just erased the little chainmail bikini, we'd get to see what was underneath, not understanding that this is not how art works at all. And we got busted by the teacher. The school teacher figured out what we were doing and took our Conan comic book away from us, even though it wasn't going to work anyway. She took it away from us. I'm sure she had quite a story to tell in the teacher's lounge that night.
I can imagine.
I hadn't thought of that in years, until we started doing the Sumerian September event. But
it's like actually today, I had a lesson where I was getting them to come up with future inventions, things that would be useful for them. And this one boy, who of course will remain nameless, came up with a really nice idea. He wanted to have some kind of rocket ship that would like fire into the air, and it would have this kind of ozone healing property where it would fix global warming, basically.
Right. Okay.
He was thinking about it. And he was like designing how it would look. Now he's excellent in English, but bless him, I'm not sure art is his forte, because he drew this rocket and it honestly just looks like a giant, part of the male anatomy, and it was like, it was just extremely embarrassing, because of course I take it into the staff room after, and I'm saying to my colleagues, what does that look like to you? And of course they're all like, a giant penis.
Right.
No, it's a rocket ship. Is it? Okay, all right, why not?
Right.
We've got a few comments. Let's see what we've got here. So Yanni's met John le Carré. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, because he lived he lived in Cornwall. Because it always said in his books he was most at home in Cornwall. And might it not have been his real name as well? I don't know. I don't know what I'm reading this Christmas yet, I have to say, and maybe that's to you as well, Reader's Retreat. I'm not sure what I'm going to read at Christmas. It will be a Dickens, probably, but which I don't know. Let's see what else have we got here. Greg and I would love to have you on our live show. This is for you, Randy. Yeah, you should do that. It's good fun.
I'm in.
Yeah. Mr. Alaska is here. What do you think of Donald Ray Pollock? I personally think he's a superstar on the rise.
I've heard the name, but right offhand, I don't know who he is.
I have to apologize, Mr. Alaska, as well. I'm not up on it.
But I've definitely heard his name. Now I got to go over here and look. Donald Ray Pollock. No relation. The devil all the time.
I don't know if anyone else who's watching this knows anything of Donald Ray Pollock, then let Mr. Alaska know in the comments. I'm sure they'll be appreciative of it.
I have not read anything about him.
Yes, that's right. David Cornwell, was le Carré's real name. So, I mean, this is the kind of weird thing, isn't it? When we have to, sometimes think so far in advance what we're reading.
Right, yeah. That's new for me. I didn't used to do TBR lists before I joined BookTube. I just grabbed a book off the shelves based on my mood, which is kind of what I do now. I make TBR lists and then ignore them.
Yeah, I've been there as well.
Sometimes I want to read anything but what's on my TBR list too. So.
Yeah, I feel terrible because even last time I made a really short TBR list. I had maybe 5 books, and still I only ended up reading. There's still time, actually, though. There's still time. I've still only read 3 of the 5, I think, and other things, interrupted me. So
you always have such huge aspirations.
Because I'm starting this week, because I wanted to start it at the start of September, because it's related to going, school and stuff, is to serve them all my days by Delderfield, and I was supposed to, as I say, I'm doing a buddy read of that, and should have started the beginning of September. Problem is, I didn't finish the 3 Musketeers from August, and I'm almost finished now. And the worst thing about it is the 3 Musketeers is brilliant. This translation by Ellsworth is fantastic, but it wasn't nonfiction, and that's what I was being drawn away from, and that's where it becomes problematic. So you got a fantasy TBR, or at least a list of possibilities in your head for February already, or you're
too big a list? Between the Steve made a video not long ago about the essential fantasy books that we should read, and then everybody posts a list of fantasy books every now and then, top 15 fantasy books or whatever, and then I bought all the fantasy and science fiction books on Steve Donahue's list of the best fantasy of 2023. I've only read one of them, but it was remarkably good. It was Last Exit by Max Gladstone, which I was surprised that I liked, because Max Gladstone co-wrote This Is How We Lose the Time War, which everybody but me loved, apparently. I did not care for it at all. And so I didn't think I was going to like Last Exit at all, but I loved it. loved every minute of it. So, but yeah, so just in front of me here, I've got these Joe Abercrombie books. It's just big. Well, I mean, I'll show you how big the stack is because they're sitting right here. But I mean,
Oh
they're
yeah.
thick,
Uh-huh.
big as my head. But and then the Once and Future King, I've been meaning to reread for a long time. It was another one of those seminal books I read as a young man. And, Lord of the Rings. I've got Mervyn Peake's Titus books over here, and then Michael Moorcock. I've been meaning to read the Elric books again for a long time. So, and they came out with those beautiful hardcover editions not too long ago. So I'm really looking forward to holding those in my hands. So yeah, Fantasy February might turn into Fantasy January, February, and March for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know what situation Sean's going to be in by January, but we somehow opened ourselves up to having to read War and Peace, right? So I'm actually looking forward to it. I am looking forward to it.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, but the problem I have sometimes with these, and I've really got to shut up about this kind of stuff, is when I've committed to it so far in advance and it's such a big book.
Right.
It's like, I would rather be like, just, right, I'm going to read War and Peace now.
Right.
But then having said that, I did the same thing last year with Les Miserables. I decided I was going to start it in January, and it worked out okay. I think I went through middle of February. But I'm looking forward to it. I've not read War and Peace all the way through. I started, I think, when I was like 13, but I was 13, so I kind of lost interest, and it was just too much. So, but I think it'll be fun to do. And then Sean and I also floated other ideas about doing something with James Michener, because his
I've never read anything about Michener.
Yeah, I love these. I used to. I haven't read a lot of them in age, but I used to love these sagas, these great sagas, like even if it's like one book, just a big book that you get lost in, like the Edward Rutherford books, like Sarum or something like this. James Michener, James Clavell, these kind of things. Just would love to do that. Alan says he wanted to read Master and Margarita, but the print's too small.
Oh, yeah. I've run into that with these Del Rey Conan books. The print's very small in them, and it makes a big difference. I need new glasses, probably, too. Well, I definitely need new glasses. It's been 5 years now. So.
We could read it on ebook. I don't think that's
there is that. Then what am I going to do with these beautiful Dead Tree copies that I have too?
Well, you do what I do. Have them as a nice display behind you. The spines aren't cracked, and
I have all those Robert E. Howard Del Rey books. There's 14 or 15 of them, and the print's small on every one of them. But it varies from one to the other too. So it's an odd little collection of books.
Yeah.
I've got a book recommendation. This is random. Okay? So I don't know how you feel about modern urban fantasy, but there's a series of books called Sandman Slim, and this is called Aloha from Hell. And man, I love these books. They're so great. I think he wrote 15 or 16 of these books, but the main character is a gladiator and an assassin in hell who works for various demons. And in the first book, Sandman Slim, he gets returned to Earth. He never died. He just got sent to hell by the other members of his coven. And so he manages to escape from hell and wind up back in Los Angeles so he can track down the members of his coven and find out why they sent him to hell in the first place and get revenge on them. And it's just terrific, hardcore, hard-boiled type fiction.
And is Los Angeles much better?
Oh yeah, well, apparently not. Although there's some good Mexican food there.
Maybe that's it.
So, but anyway,
only kidding if anyone from there. That sounds fun. I mean, sometimes when I hear these things, because I am not a big sci-fi or fantasy reader, right? But I'm always kind of open, and I did take part in New World's November last November.
Right.
And I enjoyed it. And I read Doomsday Book by Connie Willis, and I thought that was great. And actually, so Gareth from Book Songs and Other Magic is going to read with me in November as well. I know it's with, I'm doing two events. You see, I can do multi things, but I
Right.
did promise him before I came up with to read the second book of that, which is To Say Nothing of the Dog. And I'm actually looking forward to it because I did enjoy the first one so much. But I don't read, as I say, I don't read a lot of that kind of stuff really.
Right.
We'll see. But Randy, I think I'm going to have to
I was
stop
just about
here.
to say the same thing.
Somebody needs their dinner.
Yes.
Now, with the live stream, I will end the live stream, but then we
Okay.
have this short time to say goodbye, whatever, offline. Yeah, so we'll just say goodbye to everybody here. So, everyone, thank you so much for popping in, and my thanks to to Randy for joining me, and I'm sure we'll be back again sometime soon. Maybe even if we can drag Greg along and maybe do something about the whole Dr. November situation.
Well, that sounds fun.
Wonderful. All right, everybody, do take care, and we'll see you soon. All the
Thanks.
best. Bye. It's not ended yet.